Hey everyone, welcome back to Global Edge, your trusted source for breaking down global power, diplomacy, and the forces shaping our world. Whether you're a longtime viewer or you just found us, we're glad you're here. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you never miss one of our weekly deep dives into the world's biggest stories. Today, we're asking a question that's been buzzing in diplomatic circles, global headlines, and even among America's closest allies. Is the United States losing its grip on global leadership? At the recent NATO Summit, world leaders made bold declarations, reaffirming unity, defense commitments, and a so-called new era of cooperation. But behind the polished speeches and photo ops, there's a growing sense of unease. Is America still calling the shots? Or is it slowly stepping back, whether by choice, by politics, or by force of circumstance? From military spending to global influence, from Ukraine to the Indo-Pacific, we're going to break down what the U.S. is really facing and what that could mean for the future of the international order. So stay with us, because this isn't just about diplomacy or defense. It's about whether the world's most powerful nation is still setting the agenda or struggling to keep up. Let's break it all down. 1. What happened at the NATO meeting? All right, let's start with the big news from the NATO Summit in the Netherlands. President Trump walked away claiming a major victory. In what he called a historic breakthrough, NATO allies agreed to a bold new target. Each member nation will raise their military spending to 5% of their GDP by 2035. That's more than double the long-standing NATO benchmark of 2%, a goal that many members still haven't even met. United States Trump was all smiles. He praised the move as proof of renewed strength, unity, and respect for U.S. leadership. According to him, this wasn't just about budgets. It was about sending a message to adversaries like Russia, China, and Iran. NATO isn't backing down, but behind the scenes, things looked a little different. Sources close to the negotiations said that some European leaders weren't fully on board, at least not at first. There was real concern about where this money would come from, how it would be spent, and whether this was about real strategy or just appeasing Trump. Critics argue the summit had more stagecraft than statecraft. Instead of forging solid plans for Ukraine's defense, boosting cybersecurity, or outlining a unified stance on Russian aggression, much of the energy seemed focused on keeping Trump in a cooperative mood. One EU diplomat even described the atmosphere as tense but performative. So while the 5% pledge made headlines, some worry that it masked deeper fractures within the alliance. Is NATO truly more united, or just putting on a show? 2. Big promises. But what's the plan? Sure, the 5% goal sounds huge, but does it actually mean anything? On paper, it's a major commitment, but when you look closer, the reality is a lot more complicated. Of that 5%, about 3.5% is expected to go toward traditional military spending. Things like fighter jets, missile systems, tanks, and troop readiness. The remaining 1.5% would fund non-combat priorities like cybersecurity, space-based defense systems, and emergency response infrastructure, especially important in today's hybrid warfare landscape. But here's the problem. Not every country is on board. Spain has already openly said, no thanks. Their government made it clear they simply can't afford that level of spending, especially with domestic economic pressures piling up. And they're probably not alone. Other nations, especially smaller economies in Eastern and Southern Europe, are quietly expressing doubts behind the scenes. And then came Trump's curveball. When asked point blank if the U.S. would still defend a NATO country under attack, something that's literally at the heart of the NATO alliance, Trump replied, well, that depends on your definition of attack. That comment sent a chill through European capitals. Article 5 of the NATO Charter says an attack on one is an attack on all. No room for interpretation. So when the leader of the alliance's most powerful military shrugs off that commitment, it raises real questions. Can NATO still be trusted to respond in a crisis? Or has collective defense become conditional? Analysts are already debating whether Trump's remarks were a negotiating tactic or a sign that America's security umbrella might not stretch as far or as reliably as it once did. 3. Is NATO still united? Many experts are calling this a summit without a center, and what they mean is simple. The US, which once anchored NATO as its clear leader, is no longer the steady hand guiding the alliance. Under Trump, American leadership feels unpredictable, sometimes forceful, sometimes absent, and that uncertainty is reshaping the way other countries think about their own security. Take Germany, France, and Poland. These countries aren't just increasing defense budgets, they're quietly building parallel military capabilities. Poland is rapidly modernizing its army. France and Germany are investing in joint fighter jet and drone programs. And across the continent, leaders are asking themselves a once unthinkable question. What if America doesn't show up? That's why the European Union is taking things into its own hands. Plans are accelerating to build a more independent EU defense network, including satellite systems, intelligence sharing platforms, and rapid response forces. It's not about leaving NATO, at least not yet, but it's about hedging bets. Meanwhile, NATO keeps emphasizing the need to face global threats, especially China's rise in the Indo-Pacific. But so far there's been a lot of talk and not much concrete action. No new Indo-Pacific defense pacts, no major deployments, no unified strategy, just statements, reports, and handshakes. And while NATO looks outward, Russia's watching and pushing the narrative. Kremlin spokespeople are already claiming that NATO is preparing for war and using the 5% spending increase as proof. Whether that's propaganda or not, it's adding fuel to an already tense situation in Eastern Europe. So yes, the world feels uneasy right now. NATO is still the most powerful military alliance in history, but with shaky leadership, uncertain commitments, and rising regional ambitions, it's facing challenges it hasn't seen since the Cold War. 4. Is the US backing away from the world? And it's not just about NATO. The US is pulling back in other areas too. America is cutting foreign aid by over $60 billion. That means less help for developing countries, the UN, and disaster relief. There's also new legislation saying that if the president ever wants to leave NATO, 2/3 of the Senate has to agree. That shows even US lawmakers are worried about where things are headed. 5. What does this mean for the world? So, is the US really losing its global power? Well, kind of. Yes, America got NATO to spend more. But long-term, the cracks are showing. Europe is planning for a future where the US might not always show up. And when the US steps back, others step in, like China and Russia. That could mean a very different future for global leadership and security. What do you think? Is America stepping back from world leadership or just changing the way it leads? Tell me in the comments below. I read everyone. If you like this video, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. We'll be looking at how Asia is reacting to all this, so don't miss it. Thanks for watching, stay smart, and I'll see you in the next video.